What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Weekly GCap, the only source you will ever need to catch up on all the gaming news from the last week. And as always, if there's only a few stories that interest you, feel free to use the chapters down in the description or just scroll through there on the time bar and they should show up there. First things first, as always, let's go ahead and go over all the major game releases from the last week. So on November 15th, we had Great God Grove. On November 14th, we had Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, Lego Horizon Adventures, and Sorry We're Closed. Then on November 13th, we had I Am Future, which it was available before, but now it's leaving early access, and same thing with Songs of Silence. It was available before, but is now leaving early access. Then on November 12th, we had Farming Simulator 25, The Rise of the Golden Idol, and Tetris Forever. Next up, two games are free on Epic Games, Castlevania Anniversary Collection and Snakebird Complete. These will be free until November 21st at 11 AM EST, so you might as well redeem them because there's no better price than free. Next up, I got the November PS Plus Extra and Premium games for you guys. We got a great lineup this month. So, in Extra, we got Grand Theft Auto 5, which is returning to the service for like the third or fourth time now, Dying Light 2 Stay Human, Like a Dragon Ishin, MotoGP 24, The Sims 4 Island Living Add-on, Digimon Survive, Overcooked All You Can Eat, Stick Fight the Game, Clash Artifacts of Chaos, Killer Frequency, Hungry Shark World, underrated gem right there I might say, Chivalry 2, and then moving on to Premium, which, oh man, we got some bangers here, Synapse for PSVR 2, Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen 2, Resistance Fall of Man, and Resistance 2. Again, some absolute bangers there in Premium. It is worth noting that with the Resistance games, that is only available via the PS3 streaming service, so it's not native, but I mean, Resistance is Resistance, man. That is a fantastic series, and I highly recommend giving those games a shot. Next up, Spyro Reignited Trilogy was just surprisingly added to Game Pass. So this was announced a few days after the initial lineup of November Xbox Game Pass games, which we went over in the previous WGC episode, but then they just decided to drop Spyro in there. That went in November 12th, so if you're watching this, then yeah, it's available now. Next up, the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster demo is available now. This is coming from Komatsu. Quote, a demo for Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster is now available for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC via Steam, Capcom announced. This demo lets you play from the start of Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, however some aspects may differ from the full version. Save data from the demo cannot be transferred to the full game. End quote. It is also worth noting that the physical version of this game is finally available. If you remember, they released the game initially digitally only, and then they were saying, hey, we're gonna stagger the releases to where digital comes first. Physical will come a few months later. We're in November, and here we are. The physical version is finally available, along with the demo, as I just mentioned. Next up, a console port for G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra was announced. This coming from Komatsu. Quote, side-scrolling beat-em-up G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra will launch for PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch on November 21st. Publisher Indie.io and developer Maple Powered Games announced. Well, I said a bit of a tongue twister. Maple Powered Games. Okay, maybe it's not a tongue twister. Maybe I'm just terrible at speaking. Free post-launch downloadable content is also in development. Again, that is free, so love to see that. G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra first launched for PC via Steam, EGS, and GOG on September 26th. End quote. So, yeah, we talked about this a few months ago about how this game was releasing, and thank goodness a console port is finally here. Me personally, I don't have anything against PC, but if I'm gonna play games, I'd rather play them on consoles, so finally, I'll get to pick up the game and give it a shot. Next up, a Stellar Blade and Nier crossover was announced. Well, this was actually announced a while ago, but now it's like finally releasing and they announced some new features, so let's just go over this. This is coming from PlayStation Blog, quote, the moment you've been waiting for has finally arrived. A fantastic collaboration where the worlds of Stellar Blade and Nier Automata meet. In the center of all this is Emil, the strange character from Nier Automata. Emil's shop makes a surprise appearance in the world of Stellar Blade where 11 different collaboration special items will be available. Items that intertwine the best of both games, leading you to a more enriched world. And then they have a thing at the bottom just labeled with some updates that you shouldn't miss that include photo mode, 4 new costumes, 1 new accessory, and lip sync support for 6 additional languages, those being French, Spanish, Italian, German, Portuguese, and Latin American Spanish, and much more. End quote. So a lot of exciting stuff there. I mean, yeah, Stellar Blade and Nier crossing over. It's just, I mean, it's a match made in heaven. Both games are absolute masterpieces, and I'm excited to dive in and give this update a shot. Next up, the Steam Deck OLED Limited Edition White was announced. This coming from store.steampower.com. Quote, Steam Deck OLED Limited Edition White will be available worldwide on November 18th, 2024 at 3 p.m. PST. This model will cost $679 USD and will be available in all Steam Deck shipping regions. Steam Deck OLED Limited Edition White has all the same specs as the Steam Deck OLED 1TB model, but but in white and gray. It also comes with an exclusive white carrying case and a white microfiber cleaning cloth. This model will only be available in limited quantities to ensure that as many customers who wish to purchase a Steam Deck OLED limited edition white, gosh, I've had to say that so many times, can get their hands on one. We are restricting purchases to 1 unit per account. Accounts must have made a Steam purchase before November 2024 and be in good standing to be eligible. As this is a limited edition release, we will not be making more of this particular design. Once we are sold out, we will be sold out. End quote. So if you want a white Steam Deck, now's the time to do it. Hop on this. Personally, I tend to pass on white technology unless it's the only option. You know, like when, for example, the PS5, obviously it only comes in white. So, you know, it's just one of those things where I kind of got to deal with it. But, you know, if I have the option between like white or black, I'm always going to go with black just because white, you know, it can turn yellow as time goes on. Like if you look at old PS1 controllers nowadays, those have turned yellow and it can be susceptible to stains, you know, for one reason or another. Like me personally, I take really good care of my technology. I don't eat or drink around it, but you know, stuff happens. You never know. Anything could happen. So it looks nice. Personally, I'm going to pass on it, but, you know, I can't wait to see pictures of it online, because this thing, just from what we've seen from, like, the advertising materials, it looks beautiful. Next up, just something I wanted to highlight real quick. So, Nintendo, they had a direct where they showed off an expansion coming to one of their theme parks, which is coming from IGN, quote, "A Super Nintendo World Direct on Monday offered fans their long-awaited first look at the new Donkey Kong Country-themed expansion while announcing it will officially open December 11th, 2024 in Japan. The brief presentation, led by legendary designer Shigeru Miyamoto, provided an overview of the area's attractions, games, food, and merch. Among other things, Miyamoto showed off a Donkey Konga-themed rhythm game that can be played with friends and revealed how the park's wristband can be used to gathering letters spelling Kong." End quote. I think there might have been a bit of a typo in there. Can be used to gathering letters spelling. I think they meant to use can be used to gather letters spelling. Anyway, I'll stop being pedantic. Anyway, yeah, I just thought this was really cool. And you've been seeing some of the footage on your screen of the Direct. You know, this is one of those things where I wish I could go, but unfortunately, it's in Japan. So hopefully it'll make its way stateside, because I really love to go, but obviously I can't really afford or have the time to go to Japan at the moment. Next up, Steam Game Recording is available now. This coming from store.steampowered.com, quote, "Game Recording, a new built-in system for creating and sharing your gameplay footage. From capturing highlights to documenting entire campaigns, there are many ways to use this all-new set of features. With background recording mode, your gameplay is continuously saved to your preferred drive, never exceeding your specified duration and storage limits." Then it goes on to talk about all the features, how you can like set it up to just record your game as you play. Then you have like replay features, so then if something cool happens, you can like rewind a little bit and like catch the clip of what just happened, even if you weren't specifically recording. You can clip stuff, and they've also made it very convenient and easy to share your clips. You know, you can send it to your PC, your mobile device, and you can do it straight from your Steam Deck. There's obviously been a lot of features like this on PC, like you have like NVIDIA Shadowplay and all that stuff, but you know, the fact that Steam has this integrated into their service, especially considering they're like the #1 leader in terms of like, like PC game marketplaces, this is pretty cool, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to get a lot of use out of this. Next up, a Mass Effect TV series is in development. This coming from IGN, quote, "Mass Effect TV series is now officially in development at Amazon." IGN has confirmed the news with Amazon as well. Daniel Casey is set to write and executive produce the series. Other producers include EA/BioWare's Michael Gamble, who's leading development on the next Mass Effect game, and Avi Arad, who's also working on the upcoming The Legend of Zelda live-action movie. Kareem Zreek/Cedar Tree Productions are producing as well, under an overall deal with Amazon MGM Studios. We don't know too much else about the series other than those names involved at the moment. The only plot detail Amazon is letting slip is the fact that it's based on the best-selling sci-fi video game franchise from EA, so it's still unknown if it'll be a straightforward adaptation or another story set in the world of the games. End quote. I think it would be pretty cool if they could do a full retelling of the trilogy, but at the same time, I kind of don't want them to do that, because obviously a huge proponent of Mass Effect is like, what choices do you make throughout the game? Are you even playing as Shepard to begin with? Are you playing as male Shepard, female Shepard? Are you playing as a custom character? And I feel like, you know, if they would base it off of the games, that would kind of take away, I just feel like it would take away from a lot of the fans like me that, you know, play the games back in the day, still go back to replay them now, just because every time you play the game, you're almost guaranteed to get an entirely different outcome as you play through the trilogy, because not only do your choices carry over from one game to the next, but obviously there's so many different choices and micro choices, and some choices where you're like, oh, this might not matter that much, but then it has like huge consequences later on for the story overall and the endings that you get. So it's one of those things where I feel like it would take away from that experience in a way if they would make a series, especially since there's, you know, some big names behind it that worked on the Mass Effect games. It would sort of be a situation where they're like, yeah, this is actually the canon ending and the canon outcomes, and then it's like, well, you know what I mean? Like, when you play Mass Effect, it's such a special and well-crafted and tight-knit experience to where your ending and your outcomes, no matter what happens, feels like the intended canon experience, if that makes sense, right? Like, it's like your own build, your own adventure type of thing. So, in that sense, I'm kind of hoping they take the Fallout route where they just kind of do something else set in the same universe, you know what I mean, rather than doing a one-to-one adaptation. That being said, seeing some events from the game maybe, you know, happen in the show. I know I speak for myself and many other Mass Effect fans out there when I say there's a lot riding on the show for us, right? Like, you know, it's kind of been rough for us fans because it's been so long since we've had a new game. We had Andromeda a couple years back, and then before that was Mass Effect 3, but, you know, outside of that, like, we haven't been given much love in recent years. I know I'm gonna, you know, stir up a whole thing of controversy here when I say this, but personally, I loved Mass Effect Andromeda. I know a lot of the fan base disagrees with that, but so, you know, if you're somebody like me that loves Andromeda, okay, at least we had a brand new game last generation, so it hasn't been that long for us. But for the fans that didn't like Andromeda as much, it's essentially been like 2 console generations since we've had a new Mass Effect game. And, you know, even despite the show, you know, the next Mass Effect game is way off in the horizon yet, still a couple years out. So it's been a really long time since they've been given the love that they feel like they deserve, so I don't know, man. I'm really excited for the show, and I'm just hoping that they pay it respect. Above anything else, just respect the source material, and I'm really excited to see how it turns out, what direction they take, and yeah. Next up, Nintendo is suing a streamer for piracy. This coming from Engadget. Quote, Nintendo has filed a lawsuit against a streamer called Every Game Guru, accused of streaming gameplays of pirated games before they were even released, and of providing viewers access to piracy tools and illegal copies of the games. Every Game Guru allegedly streamed Mario and Luigi Brothership across 5 days, weeks before its official release on November 7th. I don't mean to laugh, this is just ridiculous, man. After Nintendo had the videos taken down from various platforms, including YouTube, they continued live streaming on Loco. I've never heard of Loco before, by the way, and even included a QR code for their Cash App handle. Nintendo said Every Game Guru sent the company an email saying it has 1,000 burner channels and can do this all day. The company is asking for $150,000 in damages per violation of its copyright. 404 Media did the math, that could add up to millions, seeing as the suit cites at least 10 games streamed on at least 50 occasions. End quote. So, I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. First things first, Nintendo is just straight up, you know, they've sued companies before, right? Like, they're still ongoing with Pocket Pair, the developers of Palworld and all that, but they're just going all in on this one person. I mean, they've sued just individual people before for, you know, things like this, like piracy and such, but it's just like, man, Nintendo, like, do not mess with them. They will destroy your life. If you have a company, they will destroy your company. We've seen with all the emulators lately, and, you know, if you're just a single person, they don't care. They've seemed in history to be a bit more sparing when it comes to who they're gonna sue. They've only sued a handful of people. But man, this is another one where, ladies and gentlemen, the Nintendo ninjas got him. Next up, Marvel Rivals executives were arrested. This one is insane. So this is coming from Dexerto. Quote, executives and other employees at Marvel Rivals developer and publisher NetEase have been arrested in connection with an alleged money laundering scheme. The amount laundered could be up to $139 million USD. According to Chinese news outlet Leifeng, executives Zhang Lang, however you're supposed to say that, and several other now former employees allegedly laundered money through contracts made up with up to 28 different business partners. Gosh, these employees were detained as the site for their weekly meeting was moved from Guangzhou to Hangzhou, with authorities intervening and detaining them at the new meeting spot in a sting operation. And though details are sparse due to this being an ongoing investigation, the amount allegedly laundered could be up to 1 billion Chinese yuan or 139 million USD. This money was part of existing business dealings in the company that totaled up to around 2 billion yuan, I think it's how you're supposed to say it. So the actual amount won't be determined until the investigation has concluded. As of now, Marvel Rivals' release schedule has been unaffected by the sting operation and some executives at the company being arrested. They revealed Moon Knight ahead of launch as a brand new character that wasn't playable in the beta, and the game is still set to release on December 6th, 2024, end quote. So, thank goodness the game's release date has been delayed because I have been heavily anticipating this game. It's a very exciting twist on the traditional hero shooter Overwatch type formula, but man, You know, it's one of those things where I hate to say this, but considering the fact that it's NetEase, I wasn't exactly surprised when I read the news. It was just kind of funny more than anything. Like, we've heard crazy things, right? You know, when it comes to, like, money laundering or, you know, like, internal, what's the word called? Internal something, whatever that happened with, like, the, you know, the creator of Sonic a couple years ago. But, man, there's been a whole lot of legal stuff this week in the courtroom, right? Now between people getting arrested, people getting sued, and speaking of people getting sued, yeah, this is not it for our court stories this week. So let's go ahead and move on to our final story of the day. And finally, Ubisoft is being sued for shutting down The Crew. So this coming from PC Gamer, quote, 2 Californians are suing Ubisoft over fraud and several other complaints due to the publisher's shutdown of The Crew in April, which left players unable to access even the single-player portion of this online-only racing game. While the lawsuit only includes 2 plaintiffs, the claims are also being made on behalf of other players as well, with the plaintiffs hoping the court will approve it as a class action. Both plaintiffs purchased The Crew late in its life cycle in 2018 and 2020 and picked up physical copies. This plays a significant role in the lawsuit. Quote, Plaintiff Cassell was under the impression that by purchasing the physical game disc, he acquired the full bundle of ownership rights over the game and that he would be able to use the disc to play the game whenever he wanted in the future. Ubisoft misled the plaintiffs, the lawsuit claims, through language on the game's packaging. Quote, defendants also reinforced this belief by including language on the product packing stating that the online portion of the game could be retired, thereby representing to consumers that an offline portion of the game existed that would be unaffected. Second, through the totality of the product's packaging, defendants falsely represented that the Crew itself was encoded onto physical discs consumers could buy or the digital files consumers could pay to download, by not making it clear that they were purchasing a digital license or that they could lose access to the entirety of the game. The plaintiffs' lawyers argue that Ubisoft has violated California's unfair competition law and committed fraud. Here's the full list of claims. Violation of the Consumer Legal Remedies Act, violation of California's unfair competition law, violation of California's false advertising law, fraud, fraudulent inducement, fraudulent misrepresentation, breach of express warranty, and breach of implied warranty. The lawsuit highlights other instances where online games were shut down, but not before the developers deployed a patch to let players continue to access them, including Ubisoft games like Assassin's Creed 2 and 3. End quote. So, you know, selfishly speaking, I used to and still do love The Crew. I was playing the game all the way up until it got shut down because, I mean, The Crew 1 was just, it was an awesome racing game. It was one of my favorite racing games, period. It was a lot of fun. Even if it wasn't a one-to-one scale with the United States, per se, or technically, you know, still driving around basically the entirety of the United States was really cool. But, again, they shut the game down. And even though we still have that experience with The Crew 2 and The Crew Motorfest, it's like, man, I really enjoyed that first Crew game. I put a lot of time into it, and they just took it away from us. So there's a part of me that hopes that, like, maybe Ubisoft could go back and do something about this after this lawsuit happens. Maybe, like, actually give us an offline patch like we deserve, because me personally, I have a physical copy of this game. It's still sitting on my shelf, and you want to know what happens when I put it into either my Xbox One or my PS4, because yes, I have the game on both platforms? Nothing. I can't play the game. So at this time, there hasn't been a response from Ubisoft, so we don't know what's really going to happen with this, if they would actually do a patch like that, if these people will be compensated in some way, or if other players that have a physical copy, like I, could be compensated in some way, but, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, Ubisoft is being sued, and honestly, this is one of those times where I'm like, I don't feel bad, and if anything, I really hope that the consumers win. It's inevitable that a game's online service will be shut down one day, but the game, especially if the game isn't entirely based around the multiplayer mechanic, which The Crew was not. It was an online-only game, but literally the entire game could be played single-player, and that was actually how I played most of the time. Like, I played with my friends one time, but the rest of the hundreds of hours I put in the game was by myself. So if it's possible to play a game by yourself that isn't, like, completely multiplayer-based, yeah, why isn't there a way to play it offline? Doesn't make sense. I can't wait to see how this turns out, and obviously I'll keep you guys updated as soon as we learn more. But anyways, that is all the stories that I have for you guys this week, which means it's time for me to get out of here. If you'd like to catch new episodes of Weekly GCap as soon as they go live every single Friday at 9 a.m. EST. I'd love to have you here. But anyway, thank you for watching. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.